Okay, so the latest Tottenham transfer news. Three very different players we're going to talk about today. The 36-year-old right-back Dani Alves. This could be the surprise transfer of the window if this one happens. 22-year-old central midfielder Dani Ceballos. A quick update and a bit more information on him. And a headline that most Tottenham fans like to see is Spurs hijacking an Arsenal transfer. So we're going to talk about the 18-year-old central defender William Saliba. We'll first start with Dani Alves though. This is a real surprise one, and one when I initially sort of saw it, I thought no way on this earth could this happen. But I was listening to Duncan Castles, who's a very reliable journalist on the Transfer Window podcast. Now he stressed he hasn't got any inside knowledge on this one, but this is a scenario he put forward. Now, a bit of background on Dani Alves, obviously 36-year-old right back, been with Brazil at the Copa America just recently, had an absolutely outstanding tournament even at 36 and was voted player of the tournament. Spent the last 2 years at PSG, won the league title there, was expected to sign a new contract with PSG. New sporting director come in and that's now been overturned. He's now available on a free transfer. He's got a host of top clubs looking at him even at 36. There's talk of Man City also being interested in him. Now, the scenario behind Dani Alves is the sort of club he's looking for. He's wanting a top club that is going to be competitive and winning things. He wants to be able to get 3 years under his belt, because his ambition is to take Brazil to the 2022 World Cup, and his ambition is to win that. So he really wants to be playing for the next 3 years at top level and ideally winning things. This is a player who's won everything club level, you know, PSG, Barcelona, absolutely outstanding player in his time. Now, the pluses for him, it's all come about with Spurs because Kieran Trippier has been unofficially for sale through the transfer window. It's very one that's under the radar a little bit, but as of I think yesterday, Atletico Madrid are sort of showing a strong interest in him. And he probably didn't have the best of seasons last year. Personally, would I like to see him go? Probably not, but I'd be interested to hear what you think in the comments. But obviously, if he goes, it really leaves Walker Peters there. Now, I think he only played about 10 times last year at Tottenham. He's a young lad, 22 years old, very, very good right back. But the scenario for Alves is that he could come into Tottenham. He would bring a real winning mentality to the dressing room. He's a very experienced, he can help some of the younger players, and he could share the workload with Walker Peters, really, to help develop him as a right back, and also see the Alves benefit would be see him through to the World Cup in 2022. Now, the downsides to Alves is he's a bit of a character. He's a very, he's a good professional, but he does like a party off the field, so that's a concern. He's not as bad as Neymar, but apparently he does like a party. The other downside is his salary wage demands could be extremely high, so it's whether Levy would be looking to entertain the sort of figures with the sort of wage structure he has at Tottenham for Alves. But the big benefit is he's available on a free, terrific experience. So we'll see how that one unfolds. Like I said, I didn't think in a million years it would happen, but I can see how that could work for Tottenham. So we'll see how it unfolds. Next one is Dani Ceballos, the Real Madrid midfielder. Now, lots of talk about him. In an ideal situation, he would like to see his long-term future at Real Madrid. He's not fancied by Zidane. Zidane doesn't really rate him. He's bringing players in, Eden Hazard. He's looking at Pogba or possibly Eriksson. So he really doesn't feature in Zidane's plans. However, the president of Real Madrid, Perez, his son actually represents Ceballos. So you've got a scenario there where the president, the agent and the player are all talking from the same hymn sheet. So it could well be that the president is thinking, look, we're in an ideal world, and for the player, we'll loan him out, see what happens with Zidane and Real Madrid over the next year, and then we're bringing back a player that's been developed another year. The other option for Real Madrid is that they sell him to a club, but there's talk that they want to have a cheap buyback clause in there. So that adds a few complications to any deal, and I'm certainly something that I can't see Levy looking at. The other scenario for Tottenham is that has been talked about is Eriksson going to Real Madrid, Ceballos coming to Spurs with some money. Again, it would only work for Levy if it wasn't a cheap buyback clause in there. Now, in terms of the player, he's looking for 40 games a season, and I really don't see. I mean, he's a terrific player. He doesn't. The issue with Spurs is he's unproven for the Premier League. So terrific at the under-21 European Championships, but it is a step up playing 40 games in the Premier League each year. He's very good at holding the ball. He draws opponents in and then plays the killer pass. But he doesn't score a lot of goals. He doesn't assist. So he isn't a direct replacement for Eriksson. So you do wonder how he's going to fit into that midfield should it happen. So I can't see really this one happening. We'll see how it unfolds, but I think the only way this could be a benefit potentially to Tottenham is if it's Eriksson plus cash, because I can't see a club coming in for Eriksson at the moment knowing that the transfer window is counting down, and the longer it counts down, the more pressure Levy is under to sell Eriksson. So I can't see anybody coming in with a 70, 80, 90 million offer for Eriksson, knowing that they can squeeze Levy even further the longer this transfer window comes along. So I think the only way the Ceballos one could work is with Eriksson. I'm not too sure how he's quite going to fit though in the midfield. There seems to be all the action around the midfield, and potentially I would like to see something more in the attacking and the defensive side in terms of this transfer window as well. Obviously Lo Celso is still the top target. I'm still pretty confident that one will happen. But I think the Eriksson situation needs sorting out. So that's Dani Ceballos. So it's quite an unusual situation where you've got the president of a club, the agent and the player probably all speaking from the same hymn sheet. Zidane obviously is working off a different song sheet. So that will, again, be an interesting one to see how it pans out. But I don't really think Tottenham are going to be in that party, to be honest. Now, the last one is William Saliba. You've all seen the headlines about Spurs hijacking the Arsenal deal for the central defender. Now, I'm not going to get overexcited about this one. The bottom line with William Saliba is he's an 18-year-old central defender in the French league with Saint Etienne. And he's only played 19 senior games last year for Saint Etienne. He's the sort of player that if a Premier League club signed, he may well go into the sort of development side of things, or he may well be loaned back out to a club to gain further experience. So he's the sort of player that typically if a Premier League club would take him, they'd sign him and probably loan him back out to Saint Etienne or one of the other French club, something like that. Let him develop a little bit, let him strengthen as a young fella and go on. Now, obviously the big headlines are there, £27 million for him. There's obviously all the talk regarding Toby Alderweireld going to Roma, and I understand there was talks between his agent and Roma, I think, on Thursday, and apparently he's got quite high wage demands, so whether Roma will like the sort of wage demands he's got. Again, there was talks that Levy was meeting the sporting director who used to be at Spurs on Friday to talk about that. The 25 million release clause is there, I think, until 2 weeks before the end of the transfer window, so 25th, 26th of July. If the transfer window goes, he can go free on a Bosman. So again, Levy's got another difficult scenario there with Toby to sort out, because do you take the money and run with him? But if he does, he played a lot of games for Tottenham last year, and I thought he had a good season. He was probably out of favour before that, but I thought he had a good season last year. Now, if you lose somebody like that, 30-year-old experienced central defender, you're losing a good chunk out of your defensive armoury. And I don't think William Saliba is going to fill that gap. So I don't know where to go on this one. I think there's an argument for Levy sort of saying, do you know what, let's try and extend his contract again. Would Toby Alderweireld be interested in extending again? If he is, he's probably going to want an awful lot of money, knowing that he can go on a free. So that's a real problem area for Pochettino and Levy to try and resolve before the end of the transfer window. All the talk, all the action has been in that midfield. Obviously, you'll know I did a video a week or so ago and featured a little bit about Zaniolo, who's at Roma, and there's talk there could be a deal there with Toby Alderweireld and Nicolo Zaniolo coming back. But Zaniolo's again, he's a midfielder. He's not a central defender. And, you know, with all the will in the world, it's nice to be linked with all these central midfielders and attacking midfielders, but you can't play them all at the same time. So, again, another interesting one, see how that one pans out. So, nothing definite. There's lots going on behind the scenes at Tottenham. There could be a few surprises before the transfer window. It's certainly keeping me entertained. Obviously, any news, I'll keep you updated here on the channel. If you like the videos, it'd be great if you could support the channel, like the video and subscribe to the channel below, and I'll keep you updated with all the latest news at Tottenham and some of the other top Premier League clubs. And thank you again for watching.